Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order on January 28th for the Board of Health meeting. So our first order of business is to vote on the minutes from our last meeting of January 7th. So does anyone make a motion to approve the minutes or any comments on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 7th as written.
Second, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then permits to sign right here for you, Kevin. So I guess while you're doing that, we can have some member comments. And from our last meeting, you had brought up the issue of the noise complaint.
Correct, yeah, evidently, just to be on record, the gentleman that is complaining about the noise and the smell, he will be flying, in other words, he's a pilot. So he asked me to be at this place, so I'm gonna ask the clerk if I can get it with his own permit, so he's gonna write me a letter, okay, and maybe notarize it, but I'm a notary, I can't notarize my own stuff. So I will be there as a resident of Littleton. I'm not gonna say I'm on the Board of Health. So I'm gonna represent that indirectly for this gentleman, and I'm gonna read a letter to the Board of Health in Groton.
Oh, okay, at the next meeting.
Correct, yeah.
And I did forward the residents' complaint to the Groton
Board of Health. Okay.
And just, I can't remember if I had passed this on to you folks or not, but I did speak with Jim again, and he has gone out numerous times with the sound machine, and there's nothing there. So they did communicate, and the resident is supposed to send him a text as soon as it happens for him to go driving over, but that it hasn't happened, I guess, since the 7th, because he hasn't received a call.
Okay, the story is, the Moscow, their church, the Indian church, asked him, actually is on record, if you contribute $10,000 to make sure the machine doesn't make any noise, but you don't ask money to somebody that lives in another area. If you don't like the smell, you can regulate it by paying somebody to move. That's not right. So I think they did a boo-boo right there. But let's see what we can do. Whenever they have the meeting, then I'll report.
You don't have a date yet for the Groton?
Not
meeting?
yet. Yeah. It's going to be in February.
Janet, can Jim just set up a decibel meter out there, and so he doesn't have to drive out on a moment's notice?
I don't think we have that kind of a machine.
Okay.
He took the machine from the building department to use,
Okay.
and I don't.
So he's borrowing it.
Yeah, but I think it's something that has to be manned, yeah.
There's a lot of people complaining, so even the
Yeah,
chief.
they've received lots of complaints, so it's just one of many.
So we
but
give them a shot.
It's up
Let's
to
see what
the
happens.
Groton people to enforce, so.
Okay. So it's ongoing. Item 2, Kevin had suggested that the Board of Health should have a Facebook page, and you had talked to IT.
I did. So the social media policy is being reviewed by Nina, who's our, so it's in the works, and they heard my request, but until that time, I guess it's been something that's been discussed with numerous boards, and so that's why they're working on a policy before they'll even entertain the notion.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's in the works, I guess. Do you want to comment on that, or?
Thank you.
Any further suggestions? Okay.
They did say that even if we are given a Facebook page, you wouldn't be able to respond. So it would just be, because it would violate the open meeting. So it would just turn into,
It's more about just like
otherwise.
posting the information.
Yep.
And then
Which we can, excuse me, sorry, which we can certainly do on our website if there was something that you wanted us to post, like we did the different concerns with the mosquitoes over the summer and things like that. We can certainly stick those on and take them on and off as you want them.
How about the coronavirus?
There's nothing local right now, so.
No, but didn't,
There was a letter.
yeah, shouldn't you post that letter? That we-
Yeah, okay, I'll ask Jim what he,
Okay. Yeah, okay. Item 3 was that Lisa is not running for the Board of Health in May, and Gina will be running for the Board of Health
I already
and for
put
the
my paper in.
Selectmen.
Yeah.
And then the final one is that Kevin suggested that it be made known that new members should attend the MAHB orientation.
which I think when I mentioned it to Shelley, she thinks it's actually in March instead of, which isn't gonna help
It's twice a year.
so it
There's
may
one in
be
November, too.
in November, so it will just be a bit of a delay.
Would
Okay.
you take a picture of us so you know what it's gonna look like without Lisa, so we can let everybody know?
Okay,
Anyway,
next is
24 Proctor.
correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
Nope,
Nope. Okay, so let's open, well, we gotta wait a minute,
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Sorry.
If we have a minute spare, Madam Chairman?
We have 4.
Well, okay. As probably everyone in this room knows, but just a reminder, the Littleton Electric and Water Department's taken over the specing out the design and for the construction of a sewer. Obviously, it won't go through unless it's approved, but the process has basically been, shall we say, re-energized by a different contractor who's going to be looking at what has already been done and adding and adjusting accordingly. So my next comment is not about the money or how much it costs. It has to do with Board of Health input. I'd like to know whether or not there are any questions or issues, not questions, but mainly questions that you might have as a board about the capacity, the volume, as it pertains to Board of Health concerns. And do we want to consider it, assemble them, and make them available to the team that's basically putting together those specs? Keeping in mind where it's going, and the primary focus here would be on commercial users who may find themselves in a position to use their property in a very, shall we say, more expansive way, because they will no longer have to contend with a leaching field. So if there are any questions about, does this work, that work, whatever, please.
So you want question now?
Nope.
Okay.
We don't want to do it, we don't have to do it.
No,
I'm
I
just
know.
offering this up.
I have a lot of questions. Every time I raise my hands at the selectmen to say, point of order, they don't want me to say anything.
But this
Just
is
to let you know.
technical, this is technical, so.
I know, everything is
it's-
technical. That's why I'm running for selectmen, because I'd be technical too,
Oh, okay.
all right?
So this
No
is
problem.
strictly Board of Health capacity, volume, those questions, if you have any.
So it's maintaining that it'll sewer the common.
I'm sorry?
It'll sewer the common.
The idea is to do, yes. So it'd be commercial. You can think of scenarios where someone, an owner may say, okay, I'm going to go from I'm making this scenario up, I have no idea, a 10-seat restaurant to a 40-seat restaurant. All right, is this proposed system going to have the capacity to go that far? And what does that far mean? I mean, it's basic questions.
Is it still the smart sewer?
I'm sorry?
Smart sewer.
I'm not sure why one would call it smart. Most sewers are smart. I mean, things go in and go out differently. So they're all technically smart, and how the process is done is different. But this one, because frankly, the common isn't that large. I mean, you're not talking about, part of a city, you're talking about basically a very short run.
It's good to have a sewer treatment in town. They had an opportunity to have it from here, it only would have cost $2 million to do that. Now it's gonna be 25, they claim, and I told them at the meeting, it's gonna be 35 million. The question is, they don't really know how much it's gonna cost because you can't prevent whatever comes along. And also, how many, wait a minute, I think.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to cut my colleague off, but this is strictly a discussion that was
Yeah, but the
initiated by a
discussion should
technical
be
issue.
pertaining to Board of Health too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's in the.
We'll leave it for another
Okay,
day.
so 7:10, we're going to open up the public hearing for 24 Park Drive. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Kevin? Were you?
Can I ask, is there an information night or?
No, I was asking
Oh,
just
okay.
for
For our
this board if we were
Okay.
interested, yay or nay, I mean, up to.
Did you sign
Yeah, we
it?
could
I did. Thank
put
you.
it on the minutes for next meeting, please.
Yeah, good idea.
After that or whatever.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, we'll get it on there so we can
24?
continue it.
Yes. All right.
So we'll vote on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some plans for board. My name is Jack Maloney. I'm from Ducharme and Dillis. Here on behalf of Mr. Manure and Septic Preservation.
I'm just doing it right here. I'm doing it.
You can sit up if you want.
Good point.
We have a plan right here. Park Drive, existing house, garage, pink is the property line. This purple area represents the existing septic system. There's an existing tank here, gravity line out, system in the ground. The yellow is the proposed leach field, and we have grading. It's going to be a raised system, pump system. So a new 1,500 gallon 2-compartment tank followed by a 1,000 gallon pump chamber will be put here, connected to the existing sewer. It's currently in and then pump up to the new leach field. Current house is an existing 2-bedroom house. Mr. Minier wanted to go to a 3-bedroom upgrade during this process. So we do have a reserve area in here. Fill and grading for the reserve area would be right up to the property line in the back if that were ever to be constructed. And the grading is less than 10 feet to the road line as well as the back line here. That is one of the variances. Regulation 23, walls, impervious barriers, fill shall not be used, shall not be placed within 10 feet of the property line. We have 1.5 foot and 4.5 foot setback for fill from our property line. Regulation 27, no fill or grading within 10 feet of the property line. And 15.227.5, the inlet and the outlet invert elevation shall be at least 12 inches above the high groundwater elevation, but in no case reduced to less than 1 inch. Right now, we're just above or right at the estimated seasonal high groundwater table, and that's based on the existing use of that pipe. That can only be raised maybe a 1/2 foot, but then we're putting it a 1/2 foot higher underneath that driveway, which could have some settling problems later on. So Jim and I had a discussion about this a week or so back, about maybe raising it, but again, we're trying to use the existing plumbing. It's about 1 foot or so below grade right now, and if we raise it, it's gonna have, a freezing or frost issue down the road, so. In Title V, under the local upgrade approval process, we're allowed to do this, even though we're kind of in a gray area because we are asking for an additional bedroom in redesigning this. So technically, it's under new construction, but, it is an upgrade to a failed septic system that's there, so.
But you can't install a 2-bedroom system.
We can, we have the property to do, a 3-bedroom system, and, it's a very small house with a growing family. They wanted to see if they could get a 3-bedroom system in there, which we can, with a couple of variances to the property line, but
Is that wetlands on that?
down here?
Yeah, what is that?
No, this is all upland. Everything's all high and dry. There is a wetlands that's about 250 feet this way at the low point of the Park Drive. This is all high and dry. There's a house with a new system across the street. than everybody.
That's why the
else.
leach field is like that, because of the wetland?
Because we ran it with, there is no wetlands,
Okay,
so we're just running it parallel to the contours.
I got it.
You usually have poly barrier.
What's that?
You just put in a poly barrier.
We have no poly barrier, we just graded it right out.
And if it was a two-bedroom, would you still have the problems with the variances and the?
Well, the two-bedroom, if we get into this Title V gray area where the minimum size that we can design for is 330 gallons, so, you know, you still have the issue with the groundwater and the tanks, because we're not moving them, but because of the way the regulations are written for upgrades versus new construction, and during an upgrade, you're allowed to do that. For technically new construction, they want you to, you know,
That's good.
get that above, but because this is an existing house, and we're not building a house from the foundation up, this is already here, we're kind of in that gray area. But under 15405, when it talks about tanks being less than 12 inches above the water table, tanks also have to be watertight. Monolithic tanks can be used, and we don't have any issue with using one of those. And all the joints are to be hydraulically cemented, so that's pretty typical anyway.
You talked to rubber boots too.
Rubber boots, correct. Most of the tanks have them already fitted in. So, and then what they do on top of that is they'll hydraulic cement around those. A belt and suspenders type of situation.
So for a 3-bedroom, the system would come up to the front?
Mhm.
I
No,
mean,
this
the
is
back
three-
property
this
line?
is
There's a
3-bedroom.
reserve.
This is only, yeah, that's a reserve.
What's the 3? Can you-
This is, yeah, this is the
This is the 3? Okay.
3-bedroom design.
And there's a reserve, just
Okay,
because it's
okay.
in that gray area of new construction. Okay.
Why don't you read Jamie's thoughts?
Yeah, so, are there any other comments?
You have a butters here too, right?
Yep.
How was it? Perk rate?
Okay,
Perk rate actually wasn't too bad. We had 2 perks, one was a 12 and the other one was a 6. Pretty decent material.
Do you have any questions, Neil?
I do. So.
You gotta state your name.
Neil O'Leary, 29 Woodland Drive, and I also own the house next door at 27 Woodland Drive. So both of the houses were right behind what you're talking about. So it looks like 29, my main house really isn't going to be affected as far as flow. Would I be correct on that statement?
What do you mean by flow?
Well, if runoff of storm water or whatever, how high is the leach field going to be above grade that it is now?
At its highest point, about 3.5 to 4 feet raised.
And then 103 at the top?
Yep, 103, and you're on a 98.5.
Yeah.
It's gonna go up to the slope, you know, there's no need to put a wall at all to minimizing that drainage?
Retaining wall?
No, we didn't have a retaining wall.
All right,
It naturally drains this way anyway, based on the contours.
and it doesn't
Well, we're
interfere?
not-
It drains towards both of my properties.
Right, it comes this way.
So that is my concern,
Right.
is, you know, in the spring, I mean, literally in my driveway, and that's why we don't have really pavement driveways down in my neighborhood, is we have, you know, stone or pavers or whatever. Literally, the water percolates right out of my driveway in the
I
spring.
got it.
I mean, it looks like the Maxwell Household Coffee
Right,
commercial.
right.
And I just want to make sure that if we're raising that, you know, 3.5 feet, that is not going to increase to a position where it's going to affect, you know, I have a sump pump underneath my house. I also have a smart system on my other house. I just don't want to make sure that both leaching fields, you know, get overwhelmed or whatever by any runoff from the proposed new system.
So there's grass there now,
Mhm.
trees, most of it's lawn,
Yeah,
and there's gonna be lawn there when we're done.
okay.
I do understand your point, but we're not putting like pavement or parking lot where you have extra runoff coming in there.
Yeah, my
Not
concern is the
concerning
grade. for-
Yep, so in Title V, and we'll make sure of it, that there is a swale that will be put in here
Mhm.
for Title V again.
Right.
So that gets diverted away,
Yeah, I mean,
coming directly onto your property.
correct, but you know, at 1.5 feet, that's
Well,
very
that
tight.
1.5 feet's up here.
Okay,
So you're at the 4.5 foot back here.
yeah,
So In Title V, there's a provision that, we don't dump extra water onto your property. There has to be a swale that's carved in there.
Yeah.
It's not shown on here, but whoever's installing it, that will be made sure that that's done.
Less water because the top end of the system is going out to the.
Right, so you got some of it coming your way, but not all of it like it used to be. Some of that's gonna get diverted around and go out towards the street.
Yeah.
The swell, when you make the swell, my recommendation would be to you, they make it like 1.5 feet down and put stone there. So when the water comes down, it will go right on the stone and then float right away. So it will not impact his property. You're gonna put a swell anyway, so why don't you just
It's
put
gonna be
a...
a swell.
Yeah.
We
put
just
it-
didn't want anything to
Right.
infiltrate in, and then
No, right.
it ends up percolating through the ground.
Right, so if you can make 1.5 feet, I guarantee you, he will have no water in his land.
I don't have an issue with that. I don't think that's gonna be a big issue. Yeah, so
Are you-
it's
are
a
you
stone
staying?
system, stone and pipe system, so if they have any
Yeah,
additional
Yeah.
stone from that system, they can
right.
definitely save
Yeah.
that and do that.
you'll save a lot of problems.
If that's something that you wanted to add to the permit, I don't have any, and I don't
Yeah.
think Bill has any issue.
It will save it like a safety net.
Well, let's read what Jim had to say too.
Okay,
You want to read it?
sure. For 24 Park Drive.
Is
these
that
are-
it? Is that all the abutters?
He's the only one.
These are
You
the,
own 2 houses.
these are the comments from Jim Gareffi, the Neshoba Board of Health rep. The sewage disposal system for the site would be considered in failure due to the estimated seasonal high water table and the depth of the existing leaching area. Soil testing was conducted and an area was found for the installation of a replacement system. This lot is large for the neighborhood, but the water table on this lot would make it difficult to contain the fill for the leaching area at a distance greater than 10 feet from the property line. The lot is only 90 feet deep. The water table also makes it nearly impossible to comply with the offset of the tank outlets, septic tank and pump chamber, at least 1 inch above the water table, because of the existing elevation of the building sewer exiting the foundation. The plan presented otherwise complies with your regulations and Title V. Because of the lot size, the applicant has adequate space to redirect the potential surface runoff onto this property, mitigating the risk of affecting the abutters' properties. In order to mitigate the potential problems from having the tank outlet inverts below the water table, the contractor can use monolithic tanks with rubber boots for the pipe connection into the tank. I don't see a problem with granting the fill to a lot line request, as the applicant has a large enough lot to address the grading. As a condition of the grading, the variance for the offset reduction for the tank outlets to groundwater, I would recommend the following. Number 1, prior to construction, have a plumber examine the existing sewer line to see if it could be raised as part of this installation. And number 2, require the installation of monolithic tanks with the cast in place rubber boots. So we've discussed both of those 2 options. So does anyone mind to make a motion?
I make a
or-
motion.
Oh, do you want to add the swale with,
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
stone?
we can add
Make a
that.
motion
Butters?
to add this well, 1.5 feet deep and with a lot of stone.
I just have a quick
That will
comment.
solve the problem.
Okay.
I'm curious, if you turn the system and kick it over to the left, you gain some elevation there. Could that eliminate a pump chamber, maybe the plumbing problem in the house?
No, you're still gonna have a pump chamber. You'd have to tear the house down, put it closer to the system and raise it to get rid of it and then grade around the house.
I mean, I'm okay with it as long as, I'm not really concerned about my primary house, it's the rental property next door that I,
And so if we throw a swale in from here over to here
yeah,
and then, taper it out, that should be fine.
yeah, I'm good with that.
So make a motion with the exception of the swale.
To add in a swale in front of the property of 27 Woodland Drive,
Just behind it. yeah.
behind it. Anyone?
I made a motion. Any second?
Can we add in there that the plumber come out take a look at that elevation to see if it can be raised.
Did you already do that?
The day that we did the testing, we got in the basement and looked at it. I mean, literally, the pipe comes out here, and the surface where the driveway is about a foot higher.
So they said that it would raise the buckle of the driveway.
From the freestyle, that's.
You'd have, when you're raising it, and then you're creating that disturbance, you can back it down and tamp it, and then you gotta put insulation over it, that 2-inch rigid, now you're just getting that much closer to the surface. And you're gonna have a more chance of settling, cracking that pipe. If we just leave that pipe as is,
You have it?
catch it over here, basically where the old tank is, we're cutting it, pumping the pressure, and moving it to the tank right in the spot, the same thing.
And I guess before we second it, you are going to use the monolithic tank?
Yes.
With the hydraulic cement? So, do you make a motion?
Did you make a motion, Gina?
I made a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is
7:20, public hearing, 20 Fletcher.
20 Fletcher Lane. Did you guys sign in?
Oh, you don't want them signing? How are you, Joe?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you all.
Dealer card tonight?
I'm sorry?
Dealer card
Did you
tonight?
notify your butters?
Yes, he gave it to me already. You gave them to me.
For Fletcher?
Oh, new place, sorry.
All in
No,
one.
I was talking about the last one.
Yes, you did give me the last one.
You're welcome. Sure I have. Okay, 20 Fletcher. Again, pink represents the property line, brown, existing house, garage, an existing septic tank in the purple here, and we found one pit while we were trying to do the test holes accidentally. Sitting in the groundwater table, we did one test hole, then do a soil sample to the water table at the time, being fairly high. More soils, took a bag, sent it off to a lab, did a sieve analysis, and got a perk from there. Basically, it's a 30-minute rate from the sieve analysis. We have town water out the front, and we need some variances. Regulation 23, walls, impervious barriers, and fill. Fill shall not be placed within 10 feet from property line. We have 2.7 feet and 4.8 foot setback from the property lines. Again, regulation 27 is the same, 2.7, 4.8 feet back from the property line. And Title V local upgrade approvals, 15-405-1H, reduction of the 4-foot minimum required separation between the bottom and leach area and the estimated seasonal high water table. We have a 2-foot reduction as per the DEP Presby regulations. 405-1I, sieve analysis may be performed if a perk test cannot. And 405-1K, at least one deep hole shall be performed in the disposal area. We have one deep hole here, which is pretty consistent with that neighborhood. I did, a few years back, I did the one across the street, and very similar. So, very tight spot, which is the biggest area of the lot. With a Presby system in here, we have, like I said, an existing garage here. The house is kind of in the back. It's not really a walkout, but it's like the foundation's halfway out of the ground and halfway into the ground. So there is a few steps up to the garage and to the main living area. And then this area in here, kind of tight to do anything based on the height, the elevation height and whatnot. I'm not sure how old the system is next door, but there's a system of pretty much the same size next door, probably 6, 7, 8 years old, I'm guessing.
If I can, that's my system, that's more like 20.
Okay. It's a raised system, but.
Do you have any other concerns or comments?
I was just curious,
Could
Yeah,
could you identify yourself?
Identify yourself.
sorry, Brian Tarbox, 16 Fletcher Lane. I'm just curious how high it's going to be and how close it's going to be to the fence.
To the fence?
Yeah.
We've got about, say, 2.7 feet to the property line right now. And again, we show a swale coming down the side. Mr. Tarbox's system is over here, and his filling grading comes pretty close to the fence, so between the two systems, there's gonna be a nice little swale to keep that water pushed out the back. The other area where we have a tight offset is 4.8 feet in the back from this back line here, which is, as you know, marked with the iron plate on the back.
Yeah, I'm just curious, just how high do you think you're going to raise it?
It looks like about 3 feet. At one, you get a 197 on a 194 contour, so about 3 feet high. Very similar to yours.
Okay, yeah, so it'll be, but probably closer to
I didn't show the fence on here, but it's gonna look similar to yours, yeah.
You can make a nice swell like the other gentleman during the event. You can soak-
Between his system and this system, there will be a nice swale in
Okay,
between both of them
all
on the
right.
fence.
It'll go right into yours.
All right, good.
That's what my question is. I'm Jacqueline Lucas, and we're at 22. So are we going to get a swale on our end too? Because I don't want that ending up in my front yard.
Well, basically what happens is all the water runoff goes that way anyway, towards that wooded area that's in your front yard.
That's my front yard. I
Right.
don't want any more though. I don't want your water.
Well, it's not gonna be any more. I mean, again, we're not putting a parking lot in here where we have extra water coming in. There's no,
But you're raising it.
we're raising it, but there's no extra water coming. You know what I'm saying? Whatever water hits there now is gonna be the same water that's gonna be there later. We're not changing any flow, you know, we're not, again, parking lots add additional flow because that water hits the parking lot and then runs somewhere. This, it's gonna be grass when it's done. It's grass and bamboo there now, or Japanese knotweed now. That'll all be cleaned up and, you know, it's gonna be lawn again.
And how do we have any assurances of where you're putting it is actually what is on this plan? I mean, you're getting awful close to our lot line,
Mhm.
so how do we know that you're really that far away and not even on our lot lines?
Because these back two corners have been marked. I don't know if you know, there's 2 iron posts there. There's another marker up here. This whole piece has been surveyed. That was originally done, I think, for Cantino back in the 80s, which we have a copy of that survey plan. So we did tie into numerous points of control out there, and we recreated the property lines based on that survey plan. So, and I don't know if you can check the permit, but it pretty much will state 99.9% of the time that the engineers to go out and stake that septic area. So we also have to verify the location, where it's going, and then once the installer puts it in, we have to re-verify or do an as-built plan of that once it goes in.
Where the water comes out, I mean, I'm not trying to satisfy the young lady, but I'm saying if there's any way you can help the neighbor, is that I know you already have a swell, right? On the swell, when it comes out the other direction, is there any way to make it feel better? A pipe like this,
Now you're actually forcing water somewhere.
well, maybe in the area where she doesn't really care.
There's really nowhere to go with it because everything goes this way.
Go that way.
Right. So this
Yeah.
garage is basically a foot or so off that back property
I got
line.
it.
So, I mean,
It's because it's so close, you know, between one property line and to the other property line.
they could put a stone swale in along this back line, but,
Yeah,
you know, what's not to say that, you know, leaves cover it over, nobody maintains it.
right, yeah. You understand what we're trying to do? Trying to avoid that water to come to your area, but the only way you can possibly do, maybe have somebody to help you, there is a swell already there. Maybe you can have another swell in a different direction, but you have to make sure that it's just like a road, you know, the water go this way, you can make a swell to go in different direction where you don't care if there's a lot of water.
I
This is
think
going
he's
right across my front yard, so I do care.
I
And
know.
I do understand what he's saying,
Yeah.
but when there's a higher ground, you can't tell me it's not going to slow down, because obviously
It's
that's how
flowing
water
that way
flows.
now. That's the whole point.
It's flat now. It's not
It's
going to be 3 or 4 feet up.
Technically, it's not flat.
Well, it's not
It's
4
still
feet up.
pitching. Their backyard pitches from this corner of the house straight back this way. Right off the back of the house, it drops, and then it's a gradual slope back to your property, all the way to your front door. So by raising that yard in this area, it's not gonna change the water, it's still gonna head that way.
I know what you're saying.
There'll be more
I
going
feel
on
like
left
not
and right.
agreeing with you, but I don't know. You're the expert, I'm not, but it doesn't sound
Yeah,
right.
I know, yeah.
It would be different if we put pavement there, or some sort of impervious ground or surface that now you've got sheet flow water that's just heading that way. But, again, you're gonna have grass on top of it, some of that's gonna get soaked into that lawn. It's only gonna be during heavy, heavy rain events that you may see some flow coming off of that, but
Well, it's fine for you to say, but it's not your land, it's not your front yard. It is my front yard, and I don't want that extra water in my yard.
Jack, my name's Paul Lucas, I'm at 22 Fletcher Lane, also Jackie's my wife. I agree a parking lot would be worse, but you raise an elevation, the water's going to run quicker than it would have naturally, so there's a little less percolation going on. Would it be enough to affect drastically? Maybe not, but it does change things. My other concern is where the water table, you're asking one of your variances is getting it closer to the water table. Is there something in the design of the septic system itself that allows for that? Is that the extra space that's required? You know what I'm saying? To get near the
I know what you're
property
saying. Yeah,
lines?
but the question is, the lot is very small.
Right.
That's the problem. If the lot was a different, everything else would be different. The question is, the lot is very, very, the only way they can do it is practically that way, and I have to vouch for that. But the question is, could be a way to eliminate some of the water. I mean, you have to have, because it's your lot, you have to have somebody to say, look, I have problem coming water from there. It's not their fault, because the water was coming down anyway.
Right.
You can have somebody that is qualified, and they might be able to help you. They might probably dig a hole, like for instance, and the water will go that direction, as long as there's a lot of stone, and then it goes on the ground, you know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of to stay up ground, it will go on the ground. You probably have to have like a manhole, you know what I mean, like a big hole there, and they cover it, and the water will go in there.
I just don't see why that should be my problem,
No,
because
no.
they're getting a variance.
No, okay.
It shouldn't legally be
I
there.
think you're making it a bigger issue.
No, it's not big, it's just trying to make it common sense.
So it's because of the Presby system, right, that you can lower the height?
Right. When Presby came into Massachusetts back in '95, it got some special variance requesting that there were design qualities that we could do a lower to groundwater table.
Right.
Because it's a sand filtering system, so it's better effluent quality once it goes through that sand. It's a different type of system than a regular traditional stone pipe system which you may have
Right.
at your house.
So there is a change of the system to it. I'm more concerned.
Typically you would have a 4-foot offset to the groundwater table, and you'd have a higher mound. But when Presby got approved through DEP, they allowed us to go to a minimum of 2 feet above the groundwater table, based on the type of system that it is.
So the system is adjusted for that. My bigger concern would be sewerage breakthrough. You are the experts, you're an expert
Sewage breakthrough from where?
from the system.
Into the groundwater.
Exactly.
Well, this is.
Or breakout.
It's gonna be treated.
It's above the groundwater
It's
table.
above ground.
Right now, there's
Right.
at least one pit here that's sitting in the groundwater table. So twice a year, right now in the spring, or, when it's raining, fall and the spring, that water table comes up into that pit, and that water's not getting treated at all, and going right back into the groundwater table, at least with the sand
Right.
filtering
But
system.
that was with basically a one-bedroom house. Now you're talking 3-bedroom, right?
Yeah, it's been assessed for 3.
So it's gonna be a lot more. I'm just I hope the system that's designed will handle 3 bedrooms, and we won't end up, because of the high water, everything's 2 feet closer, that you won't end up with either sewerage in the groundwater or breakout,
It's gonna be
because I
much
know where
better.
that breakout comes.
Well,
Well,
Yeah.
the one that we did a couple years ago across the street from this actually has a retaining wall around 3 sides of it. And that was also a 2-foot to groundwater offset
Yeah, I'm not,
because of their
Familiar with that,
backyard is
but-
even smaller than this backyard.
so there's no wall then?
On here, no.
Yeah. Well, that's my main concern. And I agree that the general flow of groundwater is from that property to ours. You increase a pitch in heavy rains, there's less percolation going on, so it might throw a little more, but I
But you
just
also-
want to make sure that system is set up for the variances so there isn't breakout or groundwater contamination. You're the experts, I'm not, so I'm.
You're also gonna have
Leave it to
4
you.
sides of pitch. So instead of everything coming this way, it's
Go
gonna
the
go
other
this
way.
way, it's gonna go back, but down.
Right.
So
yeah,
it'll be,
so that
it'll be dispersed
mitigates
a
it
little bit differently.
Do you have an issue right now in your front yard with water?
I mean, that whole area of the town is wet, as you probably know. So the groundwater's there, and we battle to try to keep it out of our driveway, out of our basement.
Okay.
It's just, it's always a concern, but
Okay, let's read Jim's comments. You want to do that, Lisa?
Sure, yeah. 20 Fletcher Lane, the existing sewage disposal system for the site has failed a Title V inspection. Soil testing was conducted and the design has been presented to this office for a replacement system. The site has a number of constraints: high seasonal water table, high perk rate, and small lot size, which makes the installation of a sewage disposal system in full compliance with Title V and your regulations not possible. The design presented requires a number of local upgrade approvals and variances to your regulations. These requests are designed to minimize the fill required to fit the system on the site, reduction of the groundwater offset 4 feet to 2 feet, use of soil analysis in lieu of perk test, and placement of fill within 10 feet of the lot line. Granting the groundwater offset reduction will allow the applicant to reduce the height of the system mound and provide room on the site to address surface runoff. I don't have an issue with this request.
Okay. Kevin,
Motion to approve.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next on the agenda is 9 Douglas Road.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
Good evening.
Take it easy.
Very well. So for the record, Brian Goodrow, Hancock Associates. We are here before you. I am here before you tonight for 9 Douglas Road, otherwise known as Lot 51. Again? Different lot. So,
Excuse me, hold on. Can you guys take it off? Sorry.
thank you.
So lot 51 has been under construction for the last several months. There's an existing 5-bedroom home there, or excuse me, there's an existing 4-bedroom home there, and there's an existing 4-bedroom septic system. We had designed it for the house, and then sometime during the negotiation process prior to closing, the new homeowners wanted to finish the basement. So we reached out to figure out the exact process on how to do that. We've done that previously on other houses within the subdivisions. But since that time, there's been a more defined process, I guess. So the applicant filled out a building permit for a finished basement. Jim rendered comments, and I was hoping to have a little bit more resolution on those comments tonight prior to this meeting. But what we've done essentially is we requested the deed restriction to a 4-bedroom home because that's what's there today, and that's the system that is currently in the ground, and then to allow the finished basement. Now, I spoke with Jim this afternoon, and I'm actually going to walk it with him tomorrow to understand, I guess there's still a couple of questions that he has regarding construction of the four-bedroom system, and at the same time, try to drill down on exactly why there are concerns outstanding of deed restricting this specific lot, given that they have been granted in the past. So I don't necessarily know if we're looking for any definitive answers this evening, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's on the agenda as a discussion. So.
Yeah.
How many rooms would be total?
So rooms total, I believe there are, the way Jim broke it out, there were 7 upstairs and then an additional 3 in the basement, for a total of 9, which would kick it to a 5-bedroom system. That's one of the critical.
9 you can get.
Total of
for-
10.
10,
9 you can do
7
before.
plus 3.
7 plus 3. So I might
5
be.
bedrooms.
Yeah, so his comment is saying that the way that the rooms are being broken out right now, he would consider it a 5-bedroom system. So that's one of the items that I'm
Floor
trying
plan.
from the floor plan.
Do you have a floor plan?
Not with me, I don't.
And the system's designed for 4-bedroom, right?
Yep, 4-bedroom, correct.
So you can have 9 rooms.
We have 9 rooms. Now, I guess a point of clarification on this, if it were to be 10 rooms with the additional rooms in the basement, as this board historically granted deed restrictions on that to ensure that there are no bedrooms.
Or you get a deed restriction.
You don't have to have any
There's
restrictions.
9 rooms, not if there's 10.
Question.
So the rooms down in the basement's gonna be 1 bedroom, a kitchen, and a living area type of thing?
So it was gonna be, there's like a kitchenette and a living room and then
It'd be like
a
3
storage
rooms.
room.
It'd be like 3
And then a bonus room that's there. So I think the way it's being broken out is the living room, the
Yeah.
kitchenette, and the bonus room are counting all as rooms.
Probably deed restriction.
Want me to read,
Sure.
Yes, please.
just for context? This is the health officer's comment. Currently, a new house is being constructed on this lot, and the board has issued a septic permit for a 4-bedroom septic system, which has been installed. Sometime after the septic and building permits were issued, a request was received to create an apartment in the basement, 1 bedroom, 3 rooms total. The permit was not endorsed by the board because the number of rooms and bedrooms exceeded the capacity of the permitted system already installed. The applicant was informed that a larger septic system would be required, 5 bedrooms, and the applicant's engineer has provided a system design to accommodate the larger design flow. The revised plan, like the plan already approved, requires a retaining wall to help meet the breakout requirements and provide drainage for surface runoff between the lots. It appears the applicant can install a larger system to accommodate the large house, and I wouldn't see an issue with granting a new permit with the condition the applicant submits an acceptable retaining wall plan for review and approval by the board. I explained to the applicant that I didn't believe it would be appropriate for the board to consider a deed restriction for this site because of the number of proposed bedrooms, and rooms would require the installation of a 5-bedroom septic system under Title V. It is my interpretation of the board's deed restriction policy, the proposed basement apartment would not qualify for a deed restriction.
So I guess one of the key points is that we did redesign the system for 5 bedrooms, and that's what we're kind of working through on which avenue to do, so.
So you don't need
Does the
the,
wall move in the new system?
you don't need
It
the
gets
restriction.
extended. So right now, the 4-bedroom system is 4 conventional trenches. 5th bedroom would be a 5th trench, and we've kind of proven that there's room for it, so we're working through it. That's
So-
the route we have to go
So you've got it set up to meet with Jim?
tomorrow.
And then we just adopt this deed restriction policy, and I feel like
Yeah,
that's our policy.
Right.
Then you have
And what
to get
about
that.
accessory dwelling? Is this, would be this considered, because it's an apartment, is that?
Yeah, I don't think it's an
anything?
apartment.
Okay.
No, this doesn't fit.
And what about, isn't there something like,
1 bedroom.
workers have something about once they had to go to building permit? something about the building permit, and they can't get an occupancy permit until something gets signed off by the building inspector.
No, that didn't happen. They
Nothing.
ended up having to put in a system.
Oh, they did, but you know how there was that issue where they...
Yeah, you couldn't use any part of the building, and they wanted to use part of the building.
Yeah, but it was more that they went and they got a building permit, and we couldn't get occupancy. It's something about the occupancy permit that they had to go to.
Originally, they wanted to have a building permit without the occupancy permit, but since they wanted to use
They're
part of...
They're out of sync.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know if this had anything
No.
to do with that.
Anything else?
I think it was a quick discussion this evening, so, we may maybe not be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by. Okay.
You're good.
7:40, oh.
7:50. You can go ahead.
Yeah, 277 to Tahattawan.
So that's us again.
You're gonna need an extra chair up here?
So we have full or reduced plans, whatever the pleasure is of board members. Full.
Oh, full, yeah.
You want to share? Everyone.
You have enough for... Yeah, we should share.
I'll take one of those. I'll get butter.
You want to put one on the board?
Any more wrestling?
Sunday was his last one.
How do you do?
Not good, and then for you sick. He ended up coming home not feeling, and then he ended up with a fever, so I was like,
China.
don't know, we're staying out.
Wrestling kids in China.
Yeah.
Brian, did you notify your butters?
Yes.
I had emailed those, I think on the 13th.
Couldn't remember which house.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem. And we actually have correspondence as well from Chris Stoddard.
Yes, I did receive that
Copy
today.
that as well.
No, from Jim Burke, who was starter.
So this is 277 Tahattawan. There's an existing house that's located to the left of a vacant lot. Currently, there are 2 conforming lots in common ownership, and what is being proposed, Lot B, which is existing, just went through an approval for a failed septic system, and that is currently constructed right now, and this is designed for the lot directly adjacent to it. So a new house is being proposed, 4-bedroom house, 4-bedroom conventional system. And the reason why we're before you this evening is for a variance to the lot line, and that lot line being specifically Tahattawan Road. So we're fully conforming with local and Title V bylaws on both side and rear lot lines. It's exclusively to the right of way while we're before you. So when we tested this lot, we tested in the same general location, directly adjacent to the remedial system for the existing home. Found very consistent materials, very consistent groundwater, and this is the design that we had come up with. We went before conservation for an RDA for wetlands that reside across Tahattawan Road. There are no wetlands on these 2 lots here. So as a part of that, drainage kind of got rolled into the conversation to understand exactly where surface runoff was going currently, where it's going to go after construction, after we create the system and grassed areas associated with it. As a part of that, we defined some swales that are basically at the base of the slope near where the existing rock wall is up by Tahattawan. So the entire lot slopes from the rear lot line to the front lot line, and there's actually a catch basin right in front of this particular parcel, and we've indicated swales and infiltration areas to catch stormwater runoff and kind of mitigate it, make sure that we're not adding additional flow, especially into Tahattawan and certainly not into direct abutters. Because again, with those direct abutters, the the existing home and the adjacent home, we are fully conforming to those setbacks. Now, as a part of Jim's review, there were, I believe, 4 comments. A couple of minor Scrivener errors to this plan, which we have resubmitted, and he wanted to see a poly barrier basically placed around the pipe that's going from the septic tank to the leach field. And what that's going to do is going to intercept any groundwater potentially migrating down the pipe channel itself. Because pipes are bedded in sand, you can sometimes create a conduit for groundwater to seep in, and then it would flow into the system. So with the poly barrier, you lose that. It's important to note that because of relatively high groundwater, the system isn't filled, but up near the house, as you get up into the slope, obviously with a basement, you're going to be into a cut. You're going to be kind of into that. Where fully conforming the septic tank offsets the groundwater, so it's really just a stopgap measure. And then the last comment that Jim had was with respect to surface water runoff and making sure that DPW was fully on board with what we were doing and that they understood the ramifications of block grading and the swales and the infiltration area. So I had that conversation with Chris Stoddard today, and he sent out a response kind of summarizing what we had come up as a solution, and there are no changes to this plan based on that conversation. What we had proposed previously is in fact appropriate for this site. So we're here before you for a variance relief of fill to Tahattawan Road, essentially.
And you're in butter?
Yeah, I'm Christopher Cranmer. So, I live here, and my concern when I got this like Friday, which they sent it a while back, but I've been working out of town, so I just had to come back tonight to see you guys. I just wanted to come and say that, when I got this, it said fill to the lot line. It didn't say which lot line. So then I was concerned about them filling to my lot line, because my lot line is a little kind of weird because it has an old stone wall that runs through there. But when they built my house back in 1950, I think they kind of like cut into that. So on my side of that stone wall, I'm kind of low, and then it kind of slopes back up again. Then it dips way down into that property that you're talking about putting a house on, okay? So basically the water runs, there's a lot of water that runs off that hill, everybody knows that, but it comes down kind of through my yard and kind of slopes off into that property. So I was concerned with them, filling to my lot line with some sort of a septic system over here, and then all the water that sheds basically off my property down through a few places in the wall where, the low points where the water gets into that property and stuff, how is it going to get down to the catch basin or wherever, right, if they were going to fill to this lot line. And then, it's very kind of, it's not cut and dry as to like, well, fill to the lot line, how much, you know what I'm saying? You're filling to the, because I think, and I don't know if maybe they got a variance when they did the new septic system at my house, because my front lot is kind of high. So, the stone wall in the back is, like I said, it kind of, my lot kind of goes up to the wall, and then it kind of goes back down again. But in the front of my house where they did the new system, to me it looks like they filled to the lot line. It looks like they filled to the wall, or maybe even higher than what was originally there as a stone wall. I don't know, I've only lived there for 10 years, but that was my concern, was, that they were gonna fill this area in over here, and then, where's the water gonna go? Where's the water gonna go from my lot?
That's why you came here, so you can explain it to you.
Right, so, I just was kind of hoping that you guys, in consideration of what you're doing and stuff, take into consideration the runoff, and, the DPW, and Jim also has concerns with that as well, and so do I, because when they built the house on the other side of me, the very next year, we had a lot of runoff. It almost blew out their new pump-up system in the back. I mean, there was a river running through there. And the thing is that my driveway sits between two catch basins, this one here, and the one down on the other side of me at the other property.
Right.
And so when they built this, now, anytime it rains or snows or melts, I have huge puddling right there by my driveway, by my mailbox, because it can't get that way, and it can't get that way.
So you can't blame them, right?
No, but I'm just saying, I wanted to, I don't,
You want it to be safe.
I mean, I like the woods next to my house. I wish there was a house going next door there, but I know I can't stop progress, but I can at least come and tell you my concerns, and hopefully, you guys can have, take what I'm saying into consideration when they actually design and build this thing, So, I mean, I guess I don't really have much to add other than that.
So you feel better now?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
like I
what matters.
said, I get a letter saying fill to the lot line, I think they're talking about my lot line, you're talking about out there at Tahattawan Road, right? I mean, and then that's the other thing is, like, that's a historic stone wall that runs through there, right? So you're not gonna you can't disturb that. How much do you fill, where do you draw that line? As far as like how much you're filling to the lot line, So.
You gotta trust the company that's gonna build that house.
Well.
I hope he's gonna be a good neighbor for you.
Hopefully. Hopefully. I'll have to spend another $12,000 to get my privacy back on that side probably. Which is about what I had to spend for the other side with a fence and arborvitaes and stuff, but, what can you do?
They might be a very nice neighbors, you
So
never
this
know.
is, obviously, this is gonna be like it's a 4-bedroom house, a 2-story home that you guys?
No, I believe it's a ranch.
Oh, it is a ranch?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a ranch.
And then, I mean, this doesn't really show in relationship to where my house sits, where this actually is sitting on there, does it? It's sitting
so this-
up towards their house?
Yeah, so this is
That's their house.
This is the existing house.
So it's coming right over.
It's going to be right by, kind of at that same.
All right, yeah, so then mine might sit a little bit closer here, so it's gonna be kind of set back towards the back a little bit. Anyway, that's why I came, that's why I'm here, thanks for hearing me. And,
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming, yeah.
Let you guys.
So the water and gas water come in, it's gonna be like a low point, water down the road.
I'll make a motion to.
Use the contours.
Yeah, so those are all going underneath the driveway, so the driveway's in a little bit of a cut at the road, and then as you go up, it shifts in the fill, and then
So the driveway will really catches water.
pretty much, and then the driveway is super elevated away from that adjacent property towards these infiltration areas and swales.
Oh, yeah, and also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was speaking to Jim on Friday. He said that the proposed driveway's coming over here by my property, or?
It is.
So how far off the lot line is the driveway, do you know?
8 to 10 feet.
So it's not far off of there. And so that theoretically, that elevation could change quite a bit from what's existing?
No, so we're generally maybe a foot higher, kind of up in this area, and then we're shifting in the cut, because as you go up the
It says
hill,
10 feet.
we can't maintain a driveway at that grade. I mean,
And so again, my lot sits higher than that lot, right? So I mean, when
So the driveway's below.
natural runoff occurs there, it has the natural, it's gonna find the low point, It's all sheet flowing kind of off and into that property, so if you start cutting driveways in there and, I don't know.
Yeah, so if it heads in that direction right now towards this catch basin, it'll be intercepted by, the driveway essentially, run down the edge of the driveway into the infiltration areas.
Any allegiance, or any other
comments?
questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have to read Jim's.
Two-
Gonna read
77.
Jim's comments first.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sure. 277 Tahattawan Road, the applicant is looking to construct a new single-family house at this location. Soil testing was conducted, and plans were submitted in review for a new septic system. Because of the site conditions, slope, and seasonal high water table, the proposed leaching area will require significant fill, and it extends to within 10 feet of the lot lines. That should just say that. I believe the designer can provide a system design compliant with Title V, but it required variance to your local regulation regarding fill. The designer has proposed a series of detention areas in the property line with the road. Given the area of disturbance on the site, the slope, and the water table on the property, I'll speak with town engineer to determine if drainage areas provided will be adequate for the site. If he feels they are acceptable, I will not have a problem with the variance request.
And we got an email
Chris said, Yeah, I have reviewed the plans for Hancock Associates for number 277 Tahattawan Road and have no issues with the design as proposed. That's from Chris Stoddard. I'll make a motion motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Two more, 13.
When you guys break ground over here, when you guys break ground. Really?
You're doing good, man. 8 o'clock.
Okay, next on the list is Lot 13 Chestnut.
Gonna keep it in comfort. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
How you doing?
Good. Pretty straightforward what we got going on here.
Your name?
Colby Field?
Are you the owner?
Yes.
Okay.
I just bought it.
Okay.
So, permanent extension.
Oh, right.
So can you tell us a
So what
little bit about?
happened? Yeah, what's the story? What's the background?
I just bought it. And now I'm gonna build a house.
Okay, so nothing was built and the permit's about to run out. So
No,
you need
the
to extend
field
it.
was installed. There's a D-box and the bottom of my bed was inspected, filled, and breather system was installed. Not complete, but
Is someone living in it with an incomplete system, or?
there's no house built.
Oh,
Just a lot, a bare lot with a system installed.
Okay.
No
But
foundation.
not completed.
No,
So what's left to do?
the force main, the pump chamber, settling tank,
Okay.
high and low vents, retaining walls, and final filling grade.
So you need a permit, practically your permit
It's an
expired.
extension.
It's,
You want an extension?
It's not expired yet.
Well, I'm
But it
saying.
will next month,
Well,
right?
yeah, but say you need a grant, they can grant you a 1-year permit extension.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
That's-
see it taking a year, but
yeah.
might as well get a year out of it.
Okay, I'm gonna read this so I can make a motion. You guys left me out. I was willing to read, but
we're all
I
taking
left,
turns.
I left it to you guys. Okay, let me see. Lot 13 Chestnut Lane. On February 14, 2017, the Board of Health issued a septic system permit for this lot. The previous owner started working on the system, but the system installation wasn't completed. In accordance with the Title V permit for sewage disposal system expiring 3 years, Board of Health may grant 1-year permit extension. The regulation Title V and yours hasn't changed since the assurance of this permit, and I don't see a problem with the extension. I make a motion that you get the extension for 1 other year.
No changes with,
No changes.
no changes with bedrooms or anything like
Nothing.
that? Okay.
So what happens, second, so everybody,
Sorry.
all in agreement? That's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
So what does he have to do for an
get an
extension?
I just have I believe
Got a
this
permit.
one right here from,
You got a checkbook with you?
Yeah, sure.
no, we don't hand it out here. No, I don't, so he'll have to make,
You have
he'll
to-
bring it.
Let me know when you want me to sign it.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, you go to the office,
Good
get
luck.
it. You take it easy, guy.
Okay, last but not least, 3 Pecker Lane,
I'll leave that one for you to
8
read.
o'clock, 10 minutes late.
Brian Fowler, Northeast Environmental. I get 2 copies of the plan here. I get one for the board if you want. If you recall, there's been no real substantial, if you recall the last time we talked about this project, we were able to spin the field to stay outside the 10-foot setback as far as grading within the 10-foot property line. I knew that the previous plan that was, I couldn't tell you for 100% certainty that we could do that. And so we're still asking for that variance, that groundwater reduction from 5 feet to 3 feet, because the perk rate on the soils are less than 2 minutes an inch. And we're still going with the Elgin technology. And we did have to move the pump chamber a little bit, we had to add that pump chamber, we just couldn't get the gravity. And we were gonna be coring at the foundation to, we're gonna raise the plumbing inside the building and we can make the inverts so we gravity drain into the pump chamber. I don't know if there's any other details you wanna know about the project.
Tell me about the Elgin system.
Beautiful.
So the Elgin system, it's a geotextile fabric.
Bring the room.
So there's a filtration component of it.
So the effluent's treated.
The effluent's treated. And it
On
does.
par with the Presby.
It's very competitive with Presby as far as the DEP testing and groundwater, so how to get the similar system size reduction. And it does use that specialty sand underneath to better treat the water, so when it goes into the groundwater, it
Pressure goes?
This, well, it's not pressure dose.
I know you have a pump chamber, but.
And that's why if you're on sheet 2, I added on the discharge pump, I want to keep it at 20 gallons, no more than 20 gallons a minute going into the system, similar to what Presby does too. You don't want to have a pump, because it's so little lift to get into the field and still have a 2-inch solid passing sewage to comply with Mass Title V. So I added essentially a flow control valve here. So it'll be field tested, so some return flow back in the pump chamber, and then as we tighten that flow, we'll measure what's going in the D box to limit the flow.
Excuse me, Ryan, did you notify the abutters?
Yes.
Do you have the slips?
You don't have it with you?
It was emailed, a copy of all those notifications.
Next time, you gotta make sure you get a
Email
paper.
to whom?
Just check my email to the town, Jim in the town, I think you were emailed also. I just read it tonight on the property owner was doing that, and I just to verify.
Which side are you folks on?
We're 8 Great Road, so I'm not sure where it is on your plan.
Right here, this is.
I haven't gotten them today.
I just read it tonight.
Okay.
So they're only asking for a variance of the.
Groundwater.
Yeah.
They gotta send it in. See if you can get it.
Where's the chance here for the business to know this is where it was before?
One more
You
time?
moved it, right?
Yeah, it's all underground too. These are the existing grade, this grade here, going onto your property. This 100 line. So we're not really, we're gonna stay 10 feet away from your property line. This is the big tree here,
The big tree in their yard or our yard?
on our land.
Okay.
That's what we said, a benchmark nail is there.
Yep.
So we're not touching that tree, we're not touching that area. The one area where the pump pumps into it, it's called a distribution box, diverts the flow through the field. That's a height of 101.59. It's approximately 2.5 feet higher than, but as it grades into, it's like 1.5 foot higher than this line here, so.
So how far is it gonna be up from the ground now, the system?
The system itself?
Yes.
It's actually not, it's not a raised, technically not a raised system. It's in the ground. The breakout, so they talk about breakout and septic in the invert, so the pump pumps up to a certain point where the pipe is. And this line right here is the elevation of that invert. That's a breakout, so that's actually the elevation breakout. It says 99.83.
If we send it to you now, what if
It's very close to 100. that number.
Okay, shows that to me.
So it's a little bit
Send
lower
it to
than
me.
your elevation on your lot.
Next time we gotta make sure
And
the.
I guess it's a foot drop. You may know better than me, the flow. It's a pretty level site.
Yes, pretty.
He had to bring it.
In general.
Brian, can you show Janet that email that shows
Yeah.
the abutters were
I
notified?
just saw it tonight.
And then send
I
it to
told
Jim?
her last week I needed it.
I travel a lot, and then I come back into rotation. It's,
In the future, if you can send it with a return receipt request so she
It
can
looks
get
like it's
it.
on the other
on the
side of
opposite
their
side, yeah.
yard from
Make
your
it easy for
property
everybody.
lines.
yeah, I'm trying to make it.
So we know where that marker is on the tree, the marker, it's like that way.
It looks like it's closer to their
Yeah.
neighbors, not the system.
So I see a butter, it says
Whoever's on this
Wednesday,
side. But we don't know if they've been notified.
122.
Because we don't
So
know.
here's-
We got the letter. Yeah.
So I can forward this again, 'cause
If you want it,
it just
yeah.
says, well, I see your name and Jim,
Yeah.
and so I clicked on this tonight,
There's supposed to be little
1.8.
stubs
Dated
that she
like,
Like a certified mail or something like
Okay.
that, or?
All right, that's a receipt, okay.
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 What was the date?
Give it to this
No,
administration.
It's not certified.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, we got it on the 17th. Yeah.
I'm just trying to read the,
That's fine.
Oh, no, they're asking if we have a letter.
January 17th.
Okay, shall we read Jim's comments?
Is there gonna be a ventry? Will there be a ventry?
This is turning. I'm trying to work through the vent on the
Do
building.
you want to read the last one, Gino?
Do a double.
Oh, no, you want to give me the last one,
I'm
okay?
tired.
You feel sorry for me?
I don't want to.
Okay, let me read it, okay? Tree picket, excuse me, dear lady. The septic system for the property failed on Title V inspection. Soil testing, am I correct? Soil testing conducted on the lot revealed the presence of a good soil, but elevated water table. In order to minimize the potential for surface runoff on abutting lots, the area is relatively flat. The designer is requesting a reduction of the offset between the groundwater and the bottom of the leaching area, 5 inches or 5 feet? 5 feet to 3 feet, with the use of the innovative alternative technology. AGL leaching modular, the DEP has approved this technology and allowed Board of Health to reduce the requirement groundwater offset up to 2 feet. The area is served by the town water and there is no proposal expansion on the sewage flow from the house. The proposed system is significant upgrade from the old system serving the site. I don't see any issue with the granting the request. Now, can I make the motion too?
Go for it.
You allow me to do that? I make a motion to accept 3 Picket Lane.
As submitted.
Pause.
As submitted.
As submitted. You like that pause, huh?
Revised date, January 25th,
I
2020.
drive you guy crazy. That's okay.
All in favor? Aye.
When I kick the bucket, you're gonna miss me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Good night.
Good night.
Louise,
Oh, we got more?
before you close, those are tonight's.
Why don't you sign them, Gino?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Chairman lady. Yes, we. Oh, wait a minute.
Say that to my girl first.
No.
Where'd you get this here? Extra came out? I only signed the other one.
You know, these were ones you voted on today. I never give those to you until after you vote.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree. Thank you. You're very efficient. We're gonna miss you when you go away, honey.
Did we skip over this?
You have not talked about that yet.
Okay.
If you wish to, Louise had sent that out as an email, so I just brought it as a, in case you had anything you wanted to discuss.
Okay. When you leaving, honey? When?
Not until the end of February.
Oh, okay.
Go, please. Please.
Oh, baby. we're still lying in the air, we don't want to advertise.
Oh, we can't advertise?
Not yet, you gotta wait.
Oh, you just said it 2 or 3 times on
He
TV.
does advertise all the time.
He's campaigning.
You gonna turn it
Okay,
off?
so,
No,
let's talk
no,
about this, did
I'm
you want to
sorry.
talk about this, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
or-
It was in our packet. and
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah, we can-
It's fairly
It's from
significant.
Nina.
It's
Yeah.
atta- I mean, there's, it,
Yeah,
as far
we
as,
don't meet again until after the.
right.
Yeah.
So the only reasons of interest would be of interest to us if this board is contemplating anything involving looking for or trying to get funds, or we're changing something that requires a town meeting approval,
Mhm.
or you want to have the Board of Selectmen consider something that would go into the warrant because it requires. And
The only thing we were concerned about, make sure that the Board of Health has enough funding, and that it was already
Yeah.
taken care of it. So we don't have really
Salaries?
anything, because if we
Job
talk,
seekers?
you're gonna shut us up.
if what?
If we talk, you're gonna say, no, that's, you gotta wait. So we can't say nothing, we got to wait. Wait until February,
For what?
for whatever that is here. Just read it, it says, I'm gonna go in this one, I'm gonna go to all of them.
Okay. All right, so does someone want to make a motion to
Adjourn,
adjourn?
second.
So we're saying that we aren't going to be asking for anything at town meeting?
If you wanna go to, you
Well,
wanna
we can
go
talk
to the
about
meeting,
that at our next meeting.
Because we're going to meet before.
I will go to the
March
meeting,
13th.
see what's
All
going
right,
on.
should we put it on the agenda?
Yeah.
So we had, talking about town meeting on the next agenda,
Right.
Okay.
and the smart sewer.
That's actually probably on the agenda too. That's
Yep,
probably on there.
I will put it
It's
on.
going up.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not promoting that we have to do any of
No,
this.
but just as a reminder, if we
Sure.
think of things in
Yeah,
the next
that's
2
good.
weeks.
Good
then,
idea. Give you a lot of input, you know?
So
I
we're
like
meeting on
that.
the 11th?
Yes, we are meeting, and I will not be here.
I'm not gonna be here either.
It's gonna be taped, so when you come back, you
Yeah.
can go.
Sorry.
Panic in the streets.
And-
Done,
Just a heads up.
Do we want to meet on the 18th then? Or is that just too
Oh,
late?
We're gonna be all our stuff.
The
You
18th
put Mike
is
in charge.
vacation.
Yeah.
Oh,
going
thank you.
You what?
Taking the full.
All right,
And February 4th is too soon.
that's my birthday, I can't.
I know. My uncle's birthday. All right, so.
Okay, so February 11th, we'll have to manage without Kevin and Janet.
Motion to adjourn, is that all approved?
It's all being approved already.
Everybody in favor?
Yeah.
We're in favor.
Who seconded it?
Who seconded it?
I'll second it.
I know.
Lisa, and then we all agree.